Hola, Botar from Porto. Oh, what's that? Carl Munson here, and the Get Out and Grow crew, and Head Gardener McGrady, Lee McGrady in Portugal. Let's start with him. What's it looking like down there in Lisbon, Lee?
Beautiful day today. Nice bit of cloud cover, a little bit of a breeze. Perfect day.
Oh, lucky you. And having a little bit of R&R, aren't you, hanging out with the family? You're not covered in soil and leaves today, as you often are on a Monday afternoon. Oh, I'm not sure if he's hearing us now. Yeah, I was just saying that you're having a bit of R&R, hanging out with the kids. It's the summer holes. You're not covered in soil and leaves as you sometimes are on a Monday afternoon.
Clean sheet, clean t-shirt, clean face, clean hands.
Unbelievable. That is not the Lee. No, that's not the Lee we know.
Fantastic.
John, how are you? Bit of strimming going on. I think.
Hello, I am good. Yeah, there is something. I think it's strimming or grass cutting or something going on. I can hear. I don't know if you can hear it on the mic, but there's definitely something going on. But yeah, I feel reasonably okay.
Excellent.
Not too bad.
We'll come back to you. We'll come back to you in a minute to find out what possessed you to suggest a rewilding special, which is what it is today. It's a cracking idea, sir. And we got some lovely videos, a couple of videos, and we'll talk more about it. And we got some Q&A as well. So don't worry if you have got questions. Don't forget to get those into Anna, who we are going to talk to now. Anna, how are you?
Yeah, doing all right. Yes, getting used to being a year older, and yeah, it's been a bit of a
happy birthday, Anna.
Oh, thank you. It's been a bit of a quieter day since all the I was going to say partying. It was a little bit of a wettish kind of day at times. So I went out and had refreshments, and yeah, got another year of Spotify to enjoy. So I'll be yes, making the most of that. And oh, I'm trying to think what else I got now. I got yes, I think I got a few gift tokens and chocolate and all that sort of thing, and a few t-shirts as well. So all good. And yes, so yeah, it's been quite a busy time, and work-wise doing that as well, and had a little update to my work schedule as well. So I'm going to be doing two afternoons instead of a morning and an afternoon. So that will be starting up possibly this week, and no gigs at the moment. So still waiting on that, and yeah, just getting used to post Olympics. I think I've been watching quite a bit. So so yeah.
Interesting. So you're a bit of a barista on the QT, some coffee grounds to spread over the garden, an endless supply should you need them. And the gigs you mentioned there, and if you didn't know, Anna is a very gifted keyboard player. But obviously with the pandemic, that's thrown a bit of a spanner in the works with your performance schedule, hasn't it? And but I think you'll be back on the road soon, I'm sure. And it was lovely to see everybody wishing you a happy birthday. And I don't know what bread and butter in the gutter is in Portuguese, so we can't sing that for you tonight. But parabéns on another great year, and looking forward to many happy returns for you, Anna.
I should say thank you and obrigado to everybody as well.
Oh, very good, very good. I see what you did there. Okay, so onward then with the gardening Q&A, which tonight is hijacked somewhat by a rewilding special. I think this is incredibly inspiring, what John suggested. Before we go to John to ask what was in his mind when he made such a suggestion, let's say hello to Paul, Louise, Lottie. I think it's Louise mainly. Hola, boa tarde a todos. Where you been, Louise? We've missed you, but I think you've been busy in the garden, basically, which is one of the ironies, isn't it? Of when you're a busy gardener, you probably haven't got time to watch gardening Q&As. It is a difficult one to balance. Boa tarde a todos, Amsterdam. Matthias, good morning. Sorry, I'm so used to saying good morning to you because you're always on the morning show. I'm saying it again, but good afternoon to you in Amsterdam. Same here with Stephen Wells, who's here both morning and evening. Appreciate it, gentlemen. And yeah, Louise is here this evening. Let us know. Is that you, John, who said that? I think it might be Mr.
Yes,
Raja.
yes, it is. Yeah, I keep saying stuff and I've muted myself. Deary me. You'd think I'd be used to all this StreamYard and Zoom stuff by now, wouldn't you?
You might think that. Botardo from Jeff Jackson over there in the States. And Flora and Simon here as well. Hello, lords, ladies. Great initiative with the rewilding, Anna and John. So, yes, John, what were you? What inspired you, possessed you to suggest rewilding?
I'm not really sure. I mean, there was voiceover for an animation I did with United Response that mentioned rewilding, and that was where I first heard of it. And I was like, "Oh, what's that then?" And then I looked it up or found out about what it was, and I thought, "Oh, that's interesting. That'd be good for the gardening thing that I do."
Yeah.
And it's kind of taken a while, but we've got it here. So there, yeah, that was kind of why. And I just thought that, yeah, I thought maybe spread the word a bit because it sounded interesting and a good learn, really.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely agree with you. And there you are, casually tossing into the conversation, doing one of my voiceovers. Just briefly tell us a bit about that, John. You're a voiceover artist.
Yeah, well, I've done a few. But yeah, it's United Response where I do my drama, and they for Rock Creative, and they do a project about this with a disabled character, and it's various issues, and there's one of them was loneliness, another one was cyberbullying, and now they've also done the environmental stuff, which was the most recent one, and rewilding was mentioned there. So I just thought, ooh, what's that? This will be suitable for this. So brilliant. Yeah,
you're the voice of Zach, right? The lead character in this thing. Yeah, you do an amazing job. Absolutely brilliant. Suzanne Derringer is here as well. Greetings from Pittsburgh. I keep missing the morning show because it's on at 4 a.m. in the morning. Yes, you're forgiven entirely, Suzanne. Evening all from Mark Stoll. Another excellent double entry today from Mark, Stephen, and Matthias, of course. Thank you for showing up both morning and afternoon. Mark and the other two gentlemen, you regulars. Portuguese, Botado, Andy's here as well. Fantastic, just down the road from Lee, and a fellow man caver. Tuned in for a bit of rewilding as well. Been busy renovating an old Gisto building, rebuilding the area, plus new roof using reclaimed under and over tiles. Wow, early mornings and late evenings to miss the heat of the midday sun. Well done, Louise. Sounds amazing. And hi all as well, just quickly there from Nikki Karen Jones as well. Good evening to you, Nikki Karen Jones. Any questions you've got about gardening, we'll squeeze them in after we've had a look at these wonderful couple of videos. One is from a UK rewilding organisation called rewildingbritain.org.uk, and we'll start with that one. It's 8 minutes long, but worth every moment of your attention, I would say. And then we'll make it relevant for both sides of the water, as we do most Mondays, with a video from the Coa Valley as well. Scaling up rewilding in the Greater Coa Valley. That's the Portuguese contribution. So that's just a couple of minutes long, but equally inspiring. So let's just kick off, shall we? Anything you're doing rewilding-wise, anyone tuned in tonight, do let us know. And a couple of other resources that we found for you as well. So let me share this first one with you. This is the backstory, if you like, and it's set in the uplands of the UK. And I'm going to see if I can run it now for you. Let's see.
Yes.
There we go.
Here's a familiar upland scene in England and Wales and in parts of Scotland, with the vegetation on the hills grazed bowling green short, often on very steep slopes. This causes rainwater to run off the hills more rapidly, which in some cases leads to soil erosion. You can see landslips at the bottom of the slope on the right of the valley, which have happened because of this erosion. This is a landscape reflecting centuries of sheep farming. Sheep have been free to roam across the hills, and particularly in the last century, they've done so in very large numbers in the same places for long periods. This is why it looks the way it does, and it's part of the reason why biodiversity is so poor in these areas. Apart from intensively grazed grassland, the other dominant feature of this landscape is the dense, regimented blocks of non-native conifer forestry. These are great for timber production, but are a poor habitat for most species of wildlife that you would naturally expect to find here. And then there's the heather on the grouse moors above. It's being burned in this picture. Many grouse moor managers burn the land routinely to encourage new heather shoots, which red grouse feed on. This helps to keep the grouse numbers high, enabling more grouse to be shot for sport. But a completely heather-dominated moorland is in effect a monoculture, and as a consequence, the variety and abundance of wildlife here is hugely suppressed. Eroded peat is a typical sight in many of our uplands. These peat hags in the foreground of the picture are evidence that the peat is drying out and eroding, releasing large stores of carbon. If you focus on the valley bottom, you'll see a river which has been historically straightened, widened and deepened to get water away downstream as fast as possible. The river has a main road running alongside it, and it has been embanked in places to enable what was its floodplain to be farmed all year round. All of these man-made interventions have reduced the biodiversity value of the river environment and have unwittingly increased the flood risk to communities further downstream. Red grouse are abundant in this landscape, as you would expect, but so are generalist species such as the fox, carrion crow and magpie. These species typically thrive in areas where there are lots of livestock and where specialist predator and scavenger species have declined or are absent due to persecution and habitat loss. Apart from grouse shooting and sheep farming, there's very little economic activity here. Of course, you will get a few walkers passing through. They won't be seeing much in the way of wildlife if they are, mind you, and they'll probably be hurrying on to the next viewpoint. Overall, this is very much a man-made landscape. You could describe it as green and brown and lumpy. To some, it will have an aesthetic appeal, and its remoteness may even make it feel wild, but in reality, it is far from that. In this second image, we see change taking place. This is roughly 10 years later. The biggest difference is that grazing pressure has been significantly reduced. Sheep have been taken off the hills, and that's allowing vegetation to recover. Burning has stopped on the grouse moor. Maybe shooting has stopped altogether. This change in land use will allow nature to bounce back over time. It's important to remember that a lot of nature recovery can be achieved simply by us ceasing activities that cause harm. The non-native conifers have been felled and replanted with native deciduous trees, which changes the whole look of the area and supports more wildlife. These new trees will provide a seed source for future generations of scrub and woodland without the need for planting. This will help to store more carbon in this landscape, and it significantly increases the infiltration of rain into the soil and bedrock below, an excellent example of natural flood management. Small numbers of suitable rare breed cattle are being allowed to roam freely, introducing some different grazing into the mix and providing an opportunity for this landscape to still produce good quality meat. There's been some fantastic work to restore the peatland. Drainage ditches have been blocked and eroding peat hags revegetated. The peat is getting wetter again, so now we have all this rich vegetation growing, which is great for insects, birds and other animals. It also stores more carbon and reduces flood risk because the mass of mosses and other plants that are now thriving help to hold more water above ground and slow the flow off the hills. Here, the black grouse population is bouncing back, and there's been a marked increase in the numbers of small birds and mammals, which provide food for raptors like the merlin and short-eared owl. The river has become a lot wilder. The main road has been relocated to the edge of the floodplain, and the flood embankments have been deliberately breached. Now the river is being allowed to find its own path and reclaim its natural floodplain. This should help to slow the flow of water off the land and reduce the risk of flooding downstream. Here we are, about 50 years into the future. The landscape has changed dramatically. It's full of colour, texture and life. Nature is really being allowed to take care of itself now. It's been given a helping hand with the creation of a green bridge across the main road. This allows wild animals and livestock to move more freely and safely through the landscape. And the lynx is back. There's no reason we shouldn't have lynx back in Britain in upland landscapes like this. The natural woodland here will suit their stealthy ambush hunting technique, and they'll help to manage deer numbers, which would otherwise have a big impact on the vegetation. The wildcat has also been successfully reintroduced after teetering on the brink of extinction in Britain at the beginning of the 21st century. Hopefully, well-planned reintroduction projects will see it return to many of our uplands. The previously degraded peat area has now completely transformed into a luscious mosaic of vegetation. This is great for birds and insects, including a few species like the marbled white butterfly, which have expanded their ranges northwards as a result of climate warming. There are more people here too. The rewilding this valley has led to many more job opportunities through diversification of land use. Grouse shooting and sheep farming may have ceased, but there are still livestock to be cared for, and you can see people foraging, perhaps for berries or mushrooms. There are walkers, cyclists, people camping and glamping, and the return of the beaver is drawing in more visitors to the wetlands in the valley bottom. People are also growing food on a small market garden scale, in the polytunnels and in a small orchard near the buildings. On the hills, free-ranging cattle, wild boar and red deer all provide small quantities of very popular high-quality meat for local communities. And then there are the activities we can't see here, which all contribute to the local economy, including low-impact silviculture, nature tour guiding, wild swimming, forest schools and scientific monitoring. These all bring in extra jobs and a big increase in volunteers, helping to restore vitality and economic resilience to these upland landscapes. This is a challenging.
Oh, I'm not sure what's happened there, folks, but the VT has packed up, but we'll get back to that as soon as we possibly can. Is that the same for everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, let's run that.
Yeah,
Let's just run that.
it seems to go all funny, so I don't know.
And economic resilience
Here
to
we
these
go, we're
upland
back.
landscapes. It's a challenging but genuinely achievable
Here we
vision
go.
for rewilding.
Oh, there we not go.
I'm on a podcast. So.
In our uplands. Now we need to think big and act wild to make it happen.
No, I'm loving that strapline. Think big, act wild. I don't know about you, but I find that really moving, especially the bit where they're talking about in 50 years' time, where it's unlikely I'll be here. I'm just really excited about what could happen long after I've been here on the earth. When you see that lynx in the tree who's caught a fox, and you think, oh, there's a little kitten. You don't want to be petting that little fella, do you? That's actually a wild cat in the front there. But what did you make of that? I think it's so beautiful.
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? How it could change the world, really.
Absolutely. By thinking big and acting wild. Lee, you've had a little bit of on the ground experience with this, haven't you? Some of the work you've done with local authorities and stuff is in the rewilding kind of area. What was your view on that? Were you moved by that? He's off to show us his rewilding area, I think.
I wasn't particularly moved by it, but I'm trying to get a better signal.
Okay.
I'm not moved by it, but I'm definitely excited by it. It's something that I've enjoyed working towards in the past.
Yeah.
And I've worked on quite a few projects across the UK. And I've volunteered on a few as well in my own time.
Yeah.
And it's definitely possible. It's feasible. It works. It's fantastic.
Yeah. And I would like to say thank you to Emma Oldham, who got in touch, for Digital Communications Manager at Rewilding Britain. Says, thanks for reaching out. She's saying good afternoon to the team here. It's great to hear our new animation is a power tool for you. Please go ahead and use it, but make sure you credit Rewilding Britain, which you've absolutely done and are pleased to do. If you could also flag our latest campaign, which is also of which this animation is part of, we'd really appreciate it. So I'll put the link so that you can find out about the latest campaign. Do check it out. Do go and have a look. Also, even if you're not in Britain, I think you can get a lot from that and be inspired. A few comments before we go to the Portuguese part of it. Excuse me one moment.
I was just wondering, Carl, what is the name of their latest campaign and of the Rewilding Britain's latest campaign? Because they've let us use the video Rewilding Britain. So I was wondering, what is the name of their campaign? I was interested because I'm.
All right. Let me just. Yep, I will bring their website onto the screen for you, John, so that you can answer that question. Let's have a look then. If we're thinking big, we're acting wild. What's this all about? So let's take a look at that. We've got. I think that's a very bold rewilding thing, isn't it? To encounter a whale at some point. Think long term. Think joined up. Think natural processes. Think climate resilience. Think big, act wild. Bringing a lot of concerns together for people. I suspect that's the campaign, right? Find out more about the world we want to see, and that's the another video to look at there. So it can take care of itself, talking about nature there. So rewilding flourishing across Britain, that's the campaign there. Check it out for yourselves, rewildingbritain.org.uk to see that. All right. So I didn't even add that to the stream. There it is, the thing that I was talking about and clicking through. Another video for you to watch. The world we want to see, I believe, is their latest campaign there. Okay, and I think we'd agree that is the world we want to see, right? A little bit wilder, a little bit more in balance with nature. That's what we're all about on a Monday evening. Let's go now then to the Portuguese entry, a bit like Eurovision, isn't it? And we're looking at the Coa Valley, which is in the north, in the Gerês area, which we've talked about before now. And I'm going to pop this on the screen for you to take a look at. Let's get that shared right on the screen before I do that. And so sometimes a little bit difficult to share YouTube videos, clicking all the things in the right order. Let's see what we can do though. Right, let me click that. There we go. Hear the sound. So there you go. That is Rewilding Europe and their specific Rewilding Portugal entry there. Unfortunately, it wasn't streaming in HD glory, but I hope you got a gist of how magnificent the Gerês region is. Lee, some people think of Lisbon, don't they, as representative of Portugal. We've got this on the doorstep here in Portugal as well. Have you been up to Gerês and seen birds of prey like that?
I've been up to an area called something Estrela.
Oh, Serra da Estrela.
That's the one. That's a beautiful national park. It's massive. Yeah. It's got working ecosystem where people are still working in the area.
Isn't that
It's
great?
still a national park. We've got everything there from nice rivers up to the highland mountain regions. I do intend to go back because I've got wolves there and I've not seen a wolf, so I intend to go back and have a look for that.
Go looking for wolves.
Yeah. I'm gonna go maybe in November, December this year. I have 4 or 5 days up there. But it's
Amazing.
a stunning Portugal. It's fantastic for wildlife. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and and now John's actually got some wildlife in his. He's gone all day with Attenborough. John, be careful there, okay? Is it safe there in your bedroom? Yeah, okay. Thumbs up from John. Just a little bit concerned about him for a moment there. Okay, Nigel, we're going to come back to you and your potatoes in a bit. We'll just complete the bit about rewilding. Andy's saying we need to replant native tree species, and arguably that would help a great deal, wouldn't it, with the fires that we experience?
Yeah, very true.
You'd agree? Okay. Well, actually, while we're about that,
that's not just in Portugal. That's across Europe.
Yeah.
It's something that's been happening over the last 15 years already.
Yeah.
Organisations are buying up big stretches of land and planting native species. Also across Africa. We think about rewilding and we think about the beavers and the badgers here. But Ethiopia is doing some massive projects there where they're replanting native species of trees.
Yeah.
And it helps to secure a water source. It helps to retain water, which a lot of the African nations have lost because of the deforestation.
Yeah, going to monocultures and cash crops.
Yes, yeah.
And you know what? You know how when people cut down trees, they plant too, which definitely seems a good idea. And that whole thing, I was reminded, what's the best time to plant a tree? Well, yesterday. Second best is today, isn't it? Now, I think we should do this with the news as well, because at the moment, if you watch the mainstream media, you're seeing it looks like the world's on fire. And obviously, there are parts of the world that are on fire at the moment. It's a pretty horrific scene. And, we have that here in Portugal as well. But it would make sense, wouldn't it? For every bad news story, they play at least one or two. And exactly, share something like you were talking about there, the rewilding, the regenerative agriculture that's going on around the world. That would give people hope instead of utter desperation at times, I think. Going back to Louise, go on, Lee, sorry.
Last year, there was a big fires in Australia that made the national news. But what they didn't mention was the rewilding projects there. Yeah. Where they're planting grasses, not trees, they're clearing trees to plant grasses to do exactly the same, to retain water, to build soil. Yeah. What you like to say, do not mention that. It's not BBC shockable. It's not. It's not shocking, is it? It's not terrifying. So they don't report on it. Yeah, it's just a loving vision of hope and inspiration. Why would we want to see that? Yeah. Okay. And AiR is a drying and threshing platform, usually stone built in front of many old stone buildings. Thank you for that. So that is a thing there that I didn't know what that was. Thank you, Louise, for pointing that out. In response to what we've just seen, not enough small farms in the UK near towns and cities in general. Really a big disconnect with rural and urban life. Big population makes property prices overinflated. Time for an overhaul. Absolutely right, Fiona and Simon. And that bloke in the first video, I thought, made a good point. What we think of as wild at the moment, and you'll have something to say, I'm sure, on this, Lee, is not actually wild at all, is it? It's the countryside as managed by human beings. It's not wild at all. It's just what we've grown up with, isn't it, as being looking wild? Yeah. Unfortunately, there's very few wild places left in the UK. The Cairngorms, for instance, compared to the Lake District, where people consider the Lake District to be wild, it's complete opposites. Same mountain range, the same style of mountains, but the Cairngorms are wild. The Lake District's so tame and over manicured. It's not. Yeah, it's different altogether. And managed, absolutely. Managed with the emphasis on man. Wondering how we can grow this idea in Portugal. All around me in the natural land is being ripped, says Nikki Karen Jones there. Well, I do have another resource to share with you. Rewilding is happening, I think, in little pockets. These are little organizations you don't always hear about. But some of you will know of Pure Portugal, obviously. And I used to do their podcast a few years ago. And one such podcast was the wonderful Deborah over there.
I interviewed Deborah. You'll see on the screen now. Deborah Richmond, Quinta de Chabelias, home of an exciting, inspiring new rewilding project. This was a couple of years ago now. Set in the mountains. This is where Lee's talking about. Serra da Estrela, set in the mountains of central Portugal. Quinta de Chabelias rewilding scheme is dedicated as a sanctuary to the honeybee and ecosystem restoration. Each swarming season will grow the number of hives with a particular emphasis on wild bees and log hives in the trees. Log hives in the trees are pretty exciting when you see them, creating a safe haven for them to thrive. We will support them with an abundant food source through bee planting and reforestation, along with soil health and water retention strategies. Same themes coming up here. If we wish our adventure to ripple out to others through sharing what we've learned, inviting thought leaders and to the land, and exploring creative ways to bring awareness of the need to rewild our planet. I'm going to put this link in the comments as well. Deborah also heads Pure Portugal's resources directory. So more info over there on Pure Portugal, our friends over there, and go specifically to Rewilding Our Planet. Lovely vision. More information about what they're doing on the website that I have just included in the comments right there. So there's one thing for you to take a look at. Nikki Karen Jones. What else? This being ripped up for monocultures, says Nikki Karen Jones. That's the problem in it. The eucalyptus is a cash crop in it. The pine trees, all going for paper production, and the Algarve. Okay, all around in the Algarve. This is what Nikki's saying. Monoculture in the Algarve. Yeah, they've got the avocados down there as well, haven't they? So people thinking differently, which is absolutely wonderful here. Cannot hear you. Right, go on.
There's some great work going on down in the Algarve at the moment.
Right.
With the reintroduction of the links on the other side of the border in Spain, it's kind of brought in funds from the European Union to start developing land in Portugal, and for the reintroduction of rabbits to feed the lynx. It's a great scheme. There's lots on YouTube about it. There's lots on the web about it. So if anyone wants to look that up. The lynx reintroduction in Spain and Portugal, and it's been a great success. Been going for maybe 20 years now, so you can see it from the start, and you can see how what goals it's achieved already. With cats turning up as far as Barcelona, I believe. So released down in the Algarve on the bottom end of Spain, and they're in Barcelona. So yeah, it's fantastic. A great project.
And then they see the Airbnb prices in Barcelona and turn back and head towards Portugal again. They see all the golf courses, and they stay for the rabbits because it's perfect ground for them. Is it really?
Yeah. That's where you see them most. Apparently, is up on the golf courses. Obviously, because the cover's not as thick, and you can actually see them hunting the rabbits up there. So.
I just have an image in my head now of just a group of lynx playing golf together.
Well, actually, yeah, that's Links on the Links, isn't it? Which is a great headline. Links on the Links. Anyone, a newspaper reporter dying to write that story with a great picture to go alongside it. Fantastic. Fiona and Simon loved the video. Brilliant video. I think they both were, weren't they? Sorry, the second one wasn't in HD glory, but I'll put the link in so you can see it for yourselves. Fiona, I'm sure, will be a fan of Rewilding. Joining late as ever. Hello, she says. Where else are we? Let's hope it is done and carried through, says Susan Derringer. Yeah, we can get a lot of talk, can't we, for governments and not necessarily people following through. But I think a lot of people will be inspired to see this through, Suzanne. I certainly hope so. Sadly,
there's a couple of projects in the UK at the moment. One of them's been linked with the Queen and Prince Charles, and another one's been paid for by the old Naturalist England, to change its name now. But they've all got 100-year funding. So the funding is there for the next 100 years, which every great rewilding project needs that longevity, needs that time to develop.
Of course it does.
So I think organisations have learned that it's easy to run out of money and easy to fizzle out.
Yeah.
So before they're starting now, they're getting that long-term support, which is the way it should be done.
Yeah, absolutely. And 100 years is right. It's not. You can't work on government timescales, can it? 5-year terms. It's never going to work. Sadly, everyone but the big decision makers understand the value of diversity. Yeah, good point, Tony. Bigger is better has driven decisions with no regard for the environment. Any efforts now are soon beaten back by the multinationals, and demand for cheap is best. I grew up in rural Worcestershire, which is now being paved over, which is a grim proposition there, Tony. I hope that more and more people will influence the big, what do you call them, the big decision makers, as you say there, and we can turn it around. Fiona and Simon, Portugal looks like it's a good start already. So beautiful. Wasn't that superb? The Coa Valley, COA. If you want to look it up some more, go to Gires yourselves and have a look. John got some wild toys in his room from Ed Matthews. Hello, Ed. Good afternoon to you. Lovely to hear from you, Ed. Ed, but eucalyptus everywhere. Nightmare. Fast growing, suck up gallons of water and home to nothing but fires, says Tony. It's a fair point. Seeds in every apple. Now, this is interesting. And we go to you now, Lee, for a little bit of rewilding help in the back garden. Because obviously, there are these great areas which we want to regenerate, reforest, rewild. But you can do it in your own back garden as well, can't you, to some extent? Seeds in every apple, instead of throwing them away, plant them. Is this the sort of thing you were thinking of?
Well, I think it's got to be bigger than that. So when you say in your own back garden, there are lots of nature groups, nature organisations around the UK and Portugal. And the best thing you can do is get involved with those. So find your local friends of groups, your local nature reserve, go and volunteer, go litter picking, go planting whips, planting seeds. That's a great way to start.
Yeah.
But also in your own garden, donate 10% of your garden, donate 5% of your garden. It all makes a difference. And just leave it. You don't have to do anything. It's the best part of rewilding is you don't have to do anything.
Yes.
You just find a corner and leave it be.
Yeah.
That
was John.
Yeah,
John's rewilding already. He's become a caveman he's responding to the spirit of it all.
Yeah.
Or the other way you can go is with the wildflower seeds that we've talked about in the past.
Yeah.
Find another 10% of your garden and just seed it, just wildflower seed it.
Beautiful.
Because every successful wildlife campaign always starts off with the food tier, with the cascade of food.
Yeah.
So if you can encourage the insects, then the other animals will follow.
Yes.
And it's just nature's way of rewilding itself. So find the corner you don't use, the corner you don't like to look of, leave it and let it do its own thing.
Yeah.
Costs nothing, takes you no time.
Have you seen, in connection with this, have you seen the Fantastic Fungi video on Netflix?
No, I've not seen it. No.
Oh, mate,
I do love fungus. I'm a big fungus fan.
I'm not surprised to hear that, but this is the most beautiful and moving film about fungi. Fantastic Fungi. There's a link to it there to find out more. Most people are using Netflix now. You can find it. Just type in fungi, and that'll come up for you. Okay, Paul and Louise, our local camera run a scheme where unused small electrical items can be exchanged for native tree saplings. Wow, that's a great idea. In an attempt to rewild, encourage native varieties and recycle the electrical items. That is a great swap. Thank you for that, Louise. That's inspiring. Ask for that at your local camera. Might give them an idea. Upsetting seeing the fake moorland landscapes, which are desolate and devoid of life. It is, isn't it? It seems wild, but it's actually quite artificial, as we said before. Louise, Andy, all reaching out to each other. This is good work. Central PT near Certa is where Louise is. Sounds like a good initiative. It does really. That sounds really great to me. Why are you not including Anna in the discussion? Sheila, I am so sorry, and you're absolutely right. She is our superstar sub, ready with a bit of Q&A. Anna, we're not avoiding you, as I'm sure you know, but would you care to add anything on rewilding? And do you want to bring in the Q&A bits now? Thank you, Sheila, for that point of order.
Sorry, I think I'm still getting used to sort of rewilding in a sense, because I think I was sort of thinking, if it's rewilding, doesn't it make it man-made if people are sort of starting all the planting and things? So I'm a bit sort of new to how it all works, because I know but nature is sort of everything sort of growing on its own, and like I know, for example, I was wondering like how the moors got to where they were. I can't sort of imagine sort of someone went with a whole load of rocks and sort of put them there and that sort of thing. And I was just sort of thinking, isn't it a mixture of people and nature, or is it sort of all nature? I was just sort of thinking, with it being rewilding, how does the part of it work?
Well,
but, probably a bit new to it still.
If it really depends how far you want to go. My my suggestion for rewilding, just leaving an area to do its own thing, is a simple, basic way to start. But the bigger organisations, like the reintroduction of beaver in the UK, they have to bring the beaver in, so they have to import beaver into the country again. Although there was some in Scotland, and they always fail to mention that. But they have to reintroduce the beaver, and they have to create an environment that is safe for the beaver to live in, to be able to repopulate and regenerate. But there comes a point where they have to just then stand back and let it do its own thing. So the early part of rewilding is manipulated a little bit, but it's just enough to get it going, to start the process before people then stand back and let it do its own thing, is the correct way to do it. But like all charities, they never completely want to succeed, because that's when the money stops. So they always want to tinker a little bit with it.
Yes.
Oh, it's true. It's so true.
True. No, you're right. You're right. So does that help?
Well,
Anna?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was just a term that I hadn't really known much about before, and in fact, it was sort of one of those. I don't know if it's sort of one of those sort of out of the blue kind of times. But on Countryfile yesterday, it was all about rewilding. So I was sort of trying to sort of understand it literally before the day we did this. So I only really sort of know about sort of making seed bombs and that sort of thing. So
again, making seed bombs is a fantastic way to get going in your own local area. Is to make little packets of seeds, and as you're driving past in the car, throw them out the window. Guerrilla gardening. It's technically guerrilla gardening with wildflowers. It's brilliant. Yeah. I mean, it's the best sort of vandalism. If you're going to get caught and arrested for something, let's make it throwing wildflower seeds out into open spaces.
Yes,
because I'm sure the judge would just laugh at you. Yeah.
Yes. John, understand if you've got to make a move, you need to finish promptly. But I think there's a couple of things we need to talk about, maybe beyond 7 o'clock.
Obviously, if we need to answer any of Anna's questions, which we probably should, really. I'm sorry, Anna, I didn't mean to make you feel you weren't included or anything like that. I'm sorry if I've made you feel like that. I hope I haven't.
That's right. I'm sort of open to anyone if they've got any ideas for me to suggest as well, because I know I'm usually the one taking care of all the questions. But
sorry, I didn't mean to cause a problem.
But I'll see if I can think of some ideas.
Anyway, yes, I'll see you guys all next week then.
Cheers, John. Thank you for that suggestion. Okay, even charities have a business plan. It's true. It's true, isn't it? So it's the way of the world right now. I'm a wild man myself, says Ed Matthews. Guilty as charged. Carlos Ribeiro, un abraço de Português de Villarreal. A real Portuguese geezer from Villarreal there. Hello to you, Carlos. Anna, should we quickly squeeze in a bit of Q&A? I know the rewilding's gone a little bit longer than we might have imagined. Sowing